Ladies and gentlemen, I take pride in introducing the greatest show on earth.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Uncle Floyd podcast number 33. This is Scott Gordon, and I stopped in to see Floyd yesterday, and he was still recovering from the UTI that he had, the infection, and he was not feeling a little bit all the way up to himself. So he said to me, let's let this go and we'll wait and we'll do it next week and we'll get it a little bit better. So I made a phone call and I got in touch with somebody who's here to say hello to all of you out there. And here he is, Looney Skip Rooney.
Hiya, gang. How's it going? Hey, Scott, good to talk to you again.
Hey,
this is my second time doing this. This is fun. Yeah.
Hey, at my age, it doesn't go. I have to push it.
That's that old Tony's pushcart joke, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Tony's pushcart. Okay.
So, what's new and exciting with you?
Oh, nothing. We're having the house remodeled. They're banging and sawing and this and that.
Oh.
And that's just putting the mailbox back on. So I don't know. Yeah. My wife Allison, she wanted to fix up the house and this and that. As a matter of fact, she wanted to say, I really want to make this place good again, so I got to move out by the 1st. But outside of that,
Next time you do one of those, I'm going to give you one of your stingers.
Oh, the rim shot. Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
If you tell another line about Allison, I got one ready.
No, I can't do that. She may be listening to this. So she's not like Gladys at all. They're totally opposite. Allison actually has the ability to breathe, so she's not dead at all. So. Hey, that sounds like her when I get out of the bathroom in the morning. She's very happy about that. So anyway,
well, the people.
Well, she's easy to please. That's why she married me. So anyway.
The people who listened to the last podcast you and I did loved it. They thought it was great. They said they want to hear more.
Well, I loved our audience. I think that, and I used to tell Floyd this all the time, I thought we had the best audience in the world because not only did they watch every day, and they sent in the pictures on the wall every day, and they sent in letters. I don't think we had email back then, but it's like every show we did, the live shows, they were there. Anything that happened to any of the cast members, they were very interested. They were there, very supportive. We had the best audience in the world. They were very supportive about anything we did, even Hula Hannah. And they even liked Hula Hannah, believe it or not. So there you go.
Well, I ran a Hula Hannah last week on the Tuesday night. This was the Uncle Floyd Show live stream, and the reaction was wonderful.
Good. That was a fun character to do. I had a lot of fun doing that, and you got to correct me if I'm wrong because this involves you. I remember Floyd came up to us one time. And he was doing Don Ho Hum. But he felt that, Don Ho Hum would become, he'd done it too many times, and he wanted to spice it up a little bit. And he wanted to do like a hula dancer type thing. And I think he went to you, and he asked you to do it, and you didn't want to do it. And because you had the goatee and this and that. I said to him, I said, I'll do it. I said, I'd love to do it. I said, Milton Berle got a lot of laughs, doing the female impersonations and dressing up like a woman, and I was more than happy to do it, and that's how it started, yeah.
Well, it was great because I knew that if I did it, it wouldn't be because Don Ho Hum was a very laid-back character.
Yes, that's for sure, yeah.
And to have someone opposite him had to be someone a lot more frenetic than he was. And you fit that bill 100%.
Fit right in.
So
Floyd said to me, he said, "Are you sure?" He said, "You think you can do it?" I said, "I know I can do it." I said, it's got to be a little bit wacky. The character's got to be wacky. And, and poke fun at you and use props and stuff when you sing as Don Ho-Hum. But I said, I'm pretty sure I can do it. And that was really a fun character to do. It really was. Yeah. It was outrageous, but what are you going to do?
One of the things about Hula Hannah, that every time you did Hula Hannah, mm-hmm. you didn't have enough time to change back to do Skip after the pictures on the wall.
Well, that was the stage show. Sometimes we did Hula Hannah towards the end of the stage show, and Floyd would go out to play the piano because we all had to make curtain call. So I didn't have time, to get the makeup off and take the hula skirt off. So I would just put the bow tie back on and the hat and go out as the Hula Hannah, Looney Skip Rooney, and it got a laugh, and that's what it was all about. As long as it got a laugh, we did it.
Well, that happened a lot on the NJN show as well.
Yeah.
because we didn't stop. Between the A bit, the first bit, and the pictures on the wall was usually less than 5 minutes of downtime.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and to get all the junk off your face and everything doing Hula Hannah, it wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen.
I once got a good case of conjunctivitis due to Hula Hannah. We were doing a show at the Bottom Line, and we had Floyd had some dancers on the show back then, and I shared a dressing room with one of the girls, and we were doing Hula Hannah, and she said, "Oh, let me do the makeup." So she put eyeliner under my eyes, and there was something on that eyeliner, and I had conjunctivitis for like 2 weeks. And yeah, that was really something.
Yeah, that's why you never share eye makeup. That's one of the rules.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
But it was a fun character to do, and especially when we did the stage shows. Oh my God, we had so much fun with Hula Hannah. And I don't know whether you remember this or not, but when we did the Bottom Line, the tables for the audience, they were right up against the stage. We were right there, and they were right there. And sometimes, I'd really get into the character and started crawling on the tables on all fours. And my knees would be in mustard and spilt beer. And I would always sit in some guy's lap towards the end of the table and like swing my legs like the guy was turning me on. And it was just an absolute riot. Well, and we had a ball. And Floyd used to come backstage when he got through doing John Ho-Hum, and he would say, "Skip, you hit a home run. You really did it tonight." Hula Hannah was I don't think we could do it today. I don't think so. But it was a lot of fun doing it back then. It was slapstick as hell. It was fun. We did a lot of things with her, and she was a big smash at the stage shows. And I remember that quite well.
And one of the things I saw you do at the Bottom Line was you went on the table. You were crawling around, and there was a guy sitting there with a bald head. And you gave him a big kiss on the top of his bald head with that crappy lipstick you wore, and put a big red smear on his head.
Oh, God. Yeah. No, it was great. When, it was like when the audience got turned on. Well, you're the same way. You're a performer, when the audience got turned on and they were laughing and clapping at you, you did more. You wanted to do more. And it always happened with Hula Hannah. And, the audience be laughing, and I'd go in the audience and, stepping on their drinks and food and everything, and the place would be hysterical. But that's the way, if you're a true performer, when they're hot for you, you go for it. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I still have the skirt. I still have I have everything from the show. But it's all getting wilted now. It's been such a long time. But I still have the hula skirt. I still have the wig. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. When I had the wig, the black wig, Charlie Stoddard used to use it when he did Tiny. What was the character? He did
Tiny Thomas.
Tiny Thomas. That's right.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a wig. So anytime he was going to do Tiny Thomas, I had to bring the wig with me to the studio from Hula Hannah, and that's what Charlie wore when he did Tiny Thomas every time. Yeah.
We had some interesting stuff. Now let's get into some of the things you did before the Uncle Floyd Show.
That's on my police record. That you got to get permission to get that. That's Okay.
In Florida, you worked on the Bozo Show.
Yes, I did. as I did. Well, as a matter of fact, I think the very first show I ever did as Looney Skip Rooney was Wonderama, and that was with Sonny Fox back in 1966. When I moved to Florida, they had a local Bozo show, and I sent them 8x10 glossy and gave them and they were very interested. I had to go all the way down to Miami. It was on Channel 7 back then, WCKT TV. It was an NBC affiliate.
Uh-huh.
And they were doing Bozo, in the afternoon, and 3:30 to 4:30. Bozo's Big Top, that was the name of it. Actually, they should have given that to his wife, but she was well endowed. But anyway, but he was, and I had an audition, and I had a tape. I had a tape from the Bozo show in New York. And they saw it. They said, "Oh, you got to do that here." So that's how I got on the Bozo show down there, because I had done Bozo in New York on Channel 9.
Right.
And so they said, "Oh, you got to do that here," Now, and I still remember that, because the first time I was on Bozo the Clown in Miami, I replaced a Huckleberry Hound cartoon. They said, "How long is your Spike Jones thing, the lip sync?" I said, "Oh, it's about 3 or 4 minutes." They said, "Perfect. We'll dump Huckleberry Hound, the cartoon, and we'll put you on." And that was the beginning of it, yeah.
New York Bozo at the time was Bill Britton?
Bill Britton, no, the show was on it was off Channel 11 by then.
Okay.
So it was another guy, and I never got his name, but he was a big guy. He was like 6'2", and he was doing Bozo the Clown. It was hilarious, because he towered over me, but he was very, very nice. And that day I did the Bozo the Clown in New York. I did it with Flip Zigman. It was a Spike Jones thing. And another guest on the show was the amazing Randy. I worked with him on that show. And he said, "You belong on the Ed Sullivan Show. This is perfect for Ed Sullivan." Well, of course, I wasn't quite big enough to do the Sullivan Show, but it was a nice compliment anyway. But that was, that was the first thing I did in New York. I told you before that it started out as a lip sync, like Jerry Lewis started out lip syncing Crazy Records and stuff, and I did Spike Jones. And but every show I tried, I got. I mean, even Joe Franklin, he didn't want me doing the character on his show, but I did get interviewed because I had letters from Stan Laurel. I had correspondence with Stan before he died.
I have a copy of you and Floyd on the Franklin show.
Oh, that was funny.
That was a great funny segment.
Yeah, that was a great, because I said to Joe, I booked it, and I said, "Well, do you want us to come on in character, or do you want us in street clothes?" And Joe, I want to say, "Skip, I love you like a son. I want you to come in character." I said, "Okay." So I told Floyd, Floyd got his hat, the bow tie, the jacket, the whole thing. I had the big bow tie, the top hat like that, and I guess he forgot that he told us to come in character. Because when you did Joe's show, before he came in to tape it, he had a bunch of chairs there, right by the set, and that's where you sat until you were called to go on.
Right.
And he saw Floyd and I sitting there, and he didn't know what to do. He's just looking, what are these guys out of their mind like that? But we went ahead and, we went ahead and did it anyway.
Of course.
I said, Joe, you don't look happy. I said, you told us to come in character. You'll get more viewers that way. I'm telling you. So, but that was funny, because I thought we weren't going to get on because we went in character. But we did okay.
No, Joe was a trooper. He used to do just about anything. Well, look what happened when they wrecked his studio doing a music video in the middle of his show.
Well, he tells that story that I still can't believe. But, Joe was a great storyteller. I mean, whether it was true or wasn't, but that story that he told me and a couple of other people, where he used to tape at Channel 7 before he moved to ORTV in '63, he was on daily at Channel 7 in New York, and he told that story about having John Kennedy, this is 1960, where he had John Kennedy and Richard Nixon on his show. And he said that they were taping a Sunday interview show, and they were taping with some other guy, and the guy dropped dead on set. And he claims that both Dick Nixon and Jack Kennedy carried the body out of the studio. I can't believe that.
No, that does sound like a fish story.
It does, but I mean, they were both presidential candidates at this point, and I'm sure that they were both heavily guarded. So why would they help take a body out of a studio? But Joe claims it happened. I want to say it was a first. It was a first, my friend. So, but I don't know. But Joe was a great character. He was a great character. And I don't know whether you ever did the show or not, but everybody I ran into at some point did Joe Franklin's show. I did it 3 times. I think Floyd did it twice. I think, yeah.
I was going to do it, and I went into Joe's office several times, and he invited me on to do it, and that was just when the lawsuit hit.
Oh boy, do I remember that! Oh yeah.
And once that happened, I couldn't go on the show. I was prohibited by the lawyers to go on the show, so I didn't go. Yeah.
I'll tell you a real quick story about that. Floyd was being sued by Joe Franklin. Everybody knows that by now, especially the fans. And but it kept quiet for a while. It kind of died down. So one day we're doing the show, and I come out. Now Floyd had just got through doing something, and it involved water. He dumped water on the floor of the set. And apparently we didn't know how big the puddle was. So I go out to do the gag, at the end of the pictures on the wall. And like I said the last time, Floyd would say, if you want to join the fun, here's the address. So as I'm walking out, I slipped in a puddle of water on the set and went down, and hard. So now it's on camera. So Floyd's holding on the microphone. He's going, oh, like I was really hurt, but I wasn't. And I got up and I went back and I said, I'm going to sue you too, like that. Well, that got the biggest laugh, and including Floyd. That got the biggest laugh. And Floyd always used to say to me, Skip, you're a better ad-libber than you are a joke teller. Let me tell you.
Well, one of the interesting things about the Joe Franklin lawsuit was the way Floyd was served.
That I didn't know. That I don't know.
It made a lot of trouble for Joe the way it was he was served. Floyd was co-hosting. I think it was a 1-to-1 show that they were the benefit show that they were doing on Channel 11. It was either Channel 11.
Probably 11. Yeah, I think they carried that. Yeah, as I remembered.
And Floyd gets introduced, and he comes out, and he's doing an introduction. He introduces Sister Sledge, who does a musical number. Walks off the stage. A guy says to him, you Uncle Floyd? Puts his hand out. Floyd says, yeah, sticks his hand out. The guy slaps a piece of paper in his hand.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
He got served. Wow. He got served at a benefit show.
That's nice.
And
that's nice.
It was J.J. Jackson who introduced Floyd.
Right, okay.
And Floyd goes back out to do the close, and as he's walking out, he looks at the paper and sees what it is. And to show you what a trooper Floyd was, if you didn't know how to read Floyd's eyes, you would have no idea what he just went through. But he had this look of shock in his eyes as he's introducing the next segment. And
wow.
And when it came out, that's why all the newscasters were doing this little segments on Floyd being sued.
Yes.
And saying things like, who's Joe Franklin kidding? They were all anti-Franklin because of the fact that it was served on the during this show.
Okay. Well, there's a thing about I didn't know how he was served, but I remember he called me. He called me at home. I guess he called all of us.
Yeah.
And told me what had happened. And I couldn't believe it. I said, "Is he serious?" Well, the best one, and I'm sure you remember. Maybe you even have it on tape in your collection. I don't know. Channel 7, ABC, they covered it quite extensively. And Tom Snyder was doing news at Channel 7, and no longer, quite. He's gone. But back then, he was at ABC News doing eyewitness news and the 11 o'clock thing. Right after Tomorrow ended on NBC, he went to Channel 7 to do the local news, eyewitness news. And for some reason, they made a big deal out of it, And so you see Tom Snyder, and he's talking about it, and he's got the $200 suit on, so they went down and got Floyd. They interviewed Floyd on the set, at the Channel 68. I think we're still taping the show there. And here's Floyd. He's got his feet up on the desk, and he's going, "What do they want from me? I got 5 cents to rub together. I don't have any money. What am I going to give them?" That was so funny. Because Tom Snyder's looking like, like a real and talking about it on the set. And here's Floyd sitting behind this plywood set saying he's only got 5 cents to his name. I mean, that was absolutely hilarious, even though the subject was, pretty serious.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was hilarious. He's got the cigar, of course. He's got the cigar. And but I might have that somewhere. But that was really funny.
I have the Channel 5 segment where the interviewer is interviewing him on the set at Channel 68, and Floyd's sitting there with the newspaper, going through the newspaper. He says, "Let's see, chef. No, I can't cook. Painter. I'll get it all over the floor. What are you kidding?" He's like reading the want ads.
I can remember when we have, I don't know, especially in the summertime, when we were taping the show at 68, I can remember we did the show, I think, for a while on Saturday afternoons. And, of course, when we did the show on Saturday afternoons, it'd be 98 degrees outside, and we were in a hot studio, and, everybody was doing the show. I mean, we were hot, but we weren't dying. So, if something went wrong, I don't know whether it was technical or the puppet fell off of his right hand or something. If something went wrong, Floyd would always say, "Throw the mic down. Damn it, I'm going to get a job mixing cement." Remember, he always said that.
Yes. And
we'd laugh like hell. Yeah.
That was the studio at 416 Eagle Rock.
Yeah, but it was, we taped it on a Saturday afternoon, and anytime it was like in the 90s or something during the summer, it was really hot. I remember he was doing a bit with the chocolate bunnies. Remember that?
Yeah, and they slid off the top of the radio.
They slid off the top of the radio. They were melting on the air. Oh God, that was hilarious.
Well, I think I've told this on the podcast before, but Richard Jost, who had Puppies and Pets, I think was the name of his or Pet Emporium or something like that was the name of his shop. Came on the show, and it was in August with a bucket full of hermit crabs.
Ooh, okay. Oh, boy.
And he
I have a feeling where this is going.
He opened it up, and he put them on Floyd's desk, and nobody realized with the heat in that studio that these things would wake up.
Oh, God.
He had about 100 of them, and they took off. They were running all over the studio, and we stopped the camera, and the techs and all of us were chasing around, picking up the hermit crabs, trying to catch them all. And we only got about 62 of them.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
They got up behind the carpet that was on the back wall. That studio for the next year smelled like a fish market when it got hot. It was terrible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of the things that happened. I got a story for you, and then we'll get back to the Floyd Show. I was doing the Looney Skip Rooney character on Bozo the Clown. And I don't care what studio that I ever worked in, and maybe you did too. For some reason, they always put the kid shows in the small studios. I mean, they had a big set, for news, Center 7 and all this, whatever it was. The news people and the interview shows, they got the sets and they got the cameras in the room in the studio. Kid shows never did. And, I always did kid shows, with my character. Where were they going to put me on? With Roger Grimsby? I mean, come on. But this was really hilarious. So, in other words, when the cameras would back up to get, like a full shot of Bozo, waist-high shot of Bozo, they had to back up. Well, I was right up against the wall, waiting to go on.
Right.
So one time, they're doing a show, and I'm standing by the wall, and for some reason I got my right leg caught up in the wire of the lavalier mics. Now, for those people that don't know what a lavalier mic is, they don't use them anymore, but they did then. It was a microphone that hung around your neck, right? It had like a piece of wire or something, then would hang down about 4 inches, from your neck, so they can, and they had the long wire, going. That was lavalier mics.
Right.
I don't know whether we ever used them on Floyd. I don't think so. But anyway, So the mic wires ran past the camera, so they could, attach them into the control room window, control room rather. And for some reason, my right leg got tangled up in one of the wires, and the camera guy pulled back, almost, through me to get the shot that he wanted, and the wire from the lavalier mic got me right into the spot in the body where I was singing High C for a month.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, that hurt, and but it was live TV. I mean, you couldn't scream, you couldn't run out the studio because there was no room. I mean, the kids are right there. So, but that was the only time I got hurt, and the time that I fell on the set with Floyd with the puddle of water when he was wrapping up the pictures on the wall. So, and I took a lot of pies in the face, as you know, but never did I get a pie in the face that hurt. But these two things with the mic wire and falling on the set, that hurt. Yeah.
Well, that's the one thing a lot of people don't understand. When you're doing physical comedy, mm-hmm. everything that is planned is fine. It's the unrehearsed, unexpected that hurts you.
Oh, exactly. Well, that thing with me falling down in the puddle of water on the Floyd Show, that was on camera. Because I was just getting ready to, how Looney Skip Rooney, we did the show, and I'd, hustle myself out, past the camera. And but that was right. I was just going off, and bang! I mean, you saw me go down and everything. And that was on camera. So I had to think of something, but quick. But the other one was off camera. I was waiting to, go on the set with Bozo. And the damn wire caught me right between the legs. Oh, my God.
Yeah, we did use those lavaliers at the old Spooky House, Channel 68.
Yeah, that's right.
And we used them for the first, I think it was about first 4 months when we went to West Market Street.
That's right, 390 West Market. That was the address. That's right, yeah.
And then at that point, they got us the RF mics.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
The radio mics. And then we never had the trouble with the wires again.
Yeah, I knew a guy in the business, and when I mention his name, I know you'll know him. I knew him that absolutely hated the lavalier mics. And he told me that they didn't have enough money to get a boom mic, but it was Zachary. John Zachary hated using the lavalier mics. He says, I'd be doing my experiments and stuff. They were kept getting in the way. And he said that, the student channel, both Channel 7 and Channel 9, the two channels he was on, they always told him, don't you be getting any, cauliflower or water in those mics. So he said, sometimes I really had to watch it because if I damaged the mics, I was going to have to pay for it.
And we did.
He hated the lavalier mics. Yeah. Floyd
and I destroyed about six or 10 of those, doing Carl and Son and that kind of stuff. And it came out of our pockets.
Sure. Oh, yeah, you had to pay for it. Yeah. And but I always use pies. So they so I had some of the times when I was working, I worked at Channel 3 for a while doing my own show, and which was a Comcast. Yeah, it was Comcast back then. I think TV3 out of Avenel. As a matter of fact, the Floyd Show. We went to that studio in Avenel for a while.
I've got about 30% of the shows that we did there.
Yeah, that was something when we did that show. It was like we were doing it in the living room. Remember, it was all paneled and stuff. Remember that?
Yeah. Do you remember the box I had there because they didn't have anything to play the sound effects and your stings and stuff, and I had them all on cassettes. And I
think you and Muggsy, didn't you? I think Muggsy had them too.
Right. But I built a box with cassette decks in it and a mixer in it to run into their control room, so that we could play the stings and all the other sound effects and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Well, at least when I did the show at TV3, the studio was in West Orange, and they had cart decks and all that, so we were saved there. We could do the show there because it was all cart. And but we're talking about the show we did for Channel 3. I remember one time because you said you had all these singers for Looney Skip Rooney on the cassette. Well, there was one cassette you'll probably remember, or one sound effect rather. It was a band, and it went da 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 da. So Floyd and I do the gag, And all of a sudden, maybe it was you or Muggsy, so Muggsy rewound it, and he kept playing it over and over, and it was hilarious. And finally, we all started dancing to it. I was dancing with Floyd, you were dancing with me, or I was dancing with somebody. It was like he was playing the same cassette, the same sound effect, rather, for about like 15 or 20 minutes, and it was hilarious, because all we did was improv, dancing to the thing. I mean, there was nothing we could do. But that, and but Floyd, all right, that's it, come on. And but that, I remember doing that. Well, that was hilarious.
Skip, was it this one?
I can't hear it too well, Scott.
What's that?
I can't hear it too well.
You couldn't hear it? Hold on. Let me.
No, I can't.
Let me turn it up a little bit.
Okay. I think that was it, yeah. But start to dance already, man. Yeah, I think that's it. And then there was another one, too, that we had that we used. There was two of them, I think, but that, I'll never forget that. God, that was hilarious. Yeah.
We've had a lot of fun doing it. Well, guess what? We used up our time already.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to have to do another one. That's all there is to it. I'd love to do it.
I wanted to get into a whole thing talking about you working with Flip Sigmund. And,
okay, we'll talk about that. Frank Nastasi, all those great people. But I just want to say, I don't think many people know, because this week, we did the Floyd Show, and people watched it on TV. But Floyd was very fair. Basically, Floyd was also the producer of the show.
Right.
But he was very fair. In other words, if you did, what he expected of you, he never gave you a hard time. He never gave me a hard time. I mean, there would be, sometimes he didn't like to joke something. He said, you can do better than that now. But that was it. He never gave us a hard time. And that was a tough show to do, boy. I mean, one sketch after another, and costume changes, and wow,
Well, that's because we were paying for the studio time, and if we took too long for changes and took too long to do it, and took too big a break, we had to pay extra for it.
I know. I remember one time, this is the 68, we would always meet with Floyd, before we taped the show. Floyd used to sit at the desk where he did Oogie and the other puppets, and he would take out the little card and, write down what was going to be done. And he would, Oogie would be at the top, and then pictures on the wall, Looney Skip Rooney and this and that. That was like a set thing. And then he would have this would be the first bit. And he would say to you, Scott, we're going to do, say, Carl and Son. You familiar with this? Yeah, I got the props. We're going to do that. Okay, fine. Then he would go to Muggsy, and they say to Muggsy, can you do 2 songs? I need 2 songs there. Muggsy say, sure, we can do it. And then we do something else, and then Floyd at the piano and close. And then he said, okay, that's it. Let's do it. And he would take the copy of what we were going to do into the director, and we do the show. That was it. Everybody thought, we rehearsed it. No, we never rehearsed it. I mean, we had an idea of what we were going to do, as performers individually. And I used to have to tell him, the punchline or a prop that I needed, to complete the gag. But that was it. Everybody else did their own thing. We had no idea what Floyd was going to do. That's why when he did Eddie Slavo, I was in hysterics.
Right.
For most of the bit, because I didn't know what he was going to do, and Hula Hannah, he called me up. Skip, we're going to need Hula Hannah. Bring. As far I get in the costume and this and that. He'd get on the set, but I had no idea what we were going to do. I mean, he would call me and say, "Well, I need a pineapple, or I need a pie or something." He would call me and let me know, but he wouldn't tell me what we were doing. And that was half the fun of the show. You got out there, you didn't know what you were going to do. You had an idea. But that was it.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we were laughing so hard at most of that stuff, because of the fact that we had no idea. The things that we said, right. We heard it for the first time when we said it.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
And it was like, but it was such a ball to do. It really was. Sure, we had our arguments, and we had technical problems and stuff like that. But as far as anybody being really mad at each other or walking off the show for 3 weeks, no.
Well,
we never. Everybody would be back in the studio to do another week the following week.
Well, when I had Charlie on the podcast, he said it the best. He said it's like we were brothers. We weren't just co-workers, we were brothers. We argued like brothers, and we loved like brothers. And that's the way it worked.
Yeah, that's true. And I know that we were all working for the show. I know that. Because we had a great following, and that was a turn on, as you know. But I think everybody worked for the show.
And we made no money.
And when we got the syndication deal, back in 1981, 1982, like that, everybody was thrilled, because I think we earned it, believe me. So.
All right, let me do a close here and hang on the phone after we're done, and we'll continue speaking for a few minutes. Scott. And
sounds good.
I gotta push some stuff. All right, hang on, Skip. I'll be right back to you. All right. Just remember, every Tuesday night at 8, we have a date with This Was the Uncle Floyd Show on stageit.com. And you can get directly to it by going to theunclefloydshow.tv. That's theunclefloydshow.tv. And if you want to send a question in for us to answer here on the podcast, just email it to ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. That's ufpodcast@sge-inc.com. And we thank you for being here, and we'll be back next week with another episode of the Uncle Floyd podcast. And I'm Scott Gordon, and we'll see you then.
This program was produced in the studios of Scott Gordon Enterprises Incorporated in Paramus, New Jersey.